Welcome back, everyone, to another episode here on the 5571 podcast. My name is Danny, and for those that don't know, this is a podcast all about what's new and what's happening at the Disneyland Resort. I'm joined today by a special guest. His name is Jared. You guys may remember Jared. He's been with me for a long time on things like Discover the Magic, and we've just been friends for a while. Got to know each other through doing theme park content here, not only on YouTube, on blog posts back in the day,
Yep.
and just journalist stuff and all those things throughout the year. So, welcome, Jared, to the podcast. I'm happy to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been I want to say what, 7 years, 6, 7 years now?
Yeah, it's been a while. So, but we have a busy schedule today, a lot of stuff. It's been a little bit since we've had an episode, so I want to talk about a few things that we kind of are behind on some of these topics. But first, I wanted to get into some of the refurbishment schedule going on over at Disneyland, since there's a lot of closures going on because the 70th anniversary is just around the corner, and Disneyland's trying to get everything spick and span all nice and clean. So we do have a lot of refurbishments right now. Starting off first over at Disneyland Park, the sailing ship Columbia, since the last time we talked, has closed, and it's going to be closed through the rest of this month. Same with the Jolly Holiday Bakery. We showed a little bit about that if you've seen some of my videos. But this one's going to be reopening pretty soon, and I'm excited to see this one. I don't know if you kind of heard it, a little bit about it on Twitter, Jared, but Jolly Holiday, they're kind of reworking the queue inside because as it currently was, it just wasn't working with like,
It's needed this for a long time.
yeah, it's like it was created for a pre-mobile order era, and
Hmm.
then it became like the mobile order
Because
location.
that line is out the door every day.
Yes, and the mobile order is like crazy. Like, it
Yeah.
got so bad sometimes that they like had to move the mobile order to like a table outside,
Hmm.
and it was just kind of like a weird setup. So that's reopening in just about 6 days from now, and
Hmm.
I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like when it reopens. But that one's been getting a lot of love on the outside, in addition to the change to the inside and how it's set up. They're giving a lot of love to the outside of the building. Over at It's a Small World, right now it is scheduled to reopen on April 24th, and construction here really grew a lot. And Disney also shared an update too, because we knew this was closing, and then when Disney said it was going to be closing, they said it was going to be closed for an extended refurbishment, but we didn't know the details of that. But just actually like last week or this week, Disney shared some updates. Not only are they doing extensive refurbishment to the ride, and of course removing the holiday layover that was there, but they're adding more Disneyfied Small World characters to the ride, including a brand new two editions, the Coco and Dante characters to the attraction, right next to where the Three Caballeros are in like the Latin America, like Mexico section of It's a Small World. Um, so that'll be a fun little addition. I know a lot of people love going on It's a Small World just to kind of like pick out all the Disney characters. So this will be a cool new addition. I wonder if they just keep doing this and keep adding new ones. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm as long as they're not doing the "It's a Small World" with Groot. Um, I'm okay with them adding a couple Disney characters here and there because I know there was a lot of outrage way back in the day when they first added the characters, but now they're a part of the attraction. So I like that they're doing this. This is great.
I agree. I agree. And as far as the opening date, it's supposed to be April 25th. So it'll be
Hmm.
closed through the 24th. So basically, just debuting prior to the 70th anniversary. So it'll be nice to go back on It's a Small World. Over at Indiana Jones Adventure, they're going to be closed in just a couple of days here. So probably the day after this podcast debuts. And they're also reopening the same day that It's a Small World is reopening. So Indiana Jones goes down for refurbishment all the time. Um, and more specifically on this particular refurbishment, it's not super long, but there were some musings with like permits being filed that they were potentially going to get the door effect to be working on Indiana Jones again. So when you first enter the attraction, and you're choosing the door, whether it's the future, the treasure, or eternal youth and beauty. It used to be random, and you would go through a different door, but it seemed like for the last probably 15 years, you've gone just through the middle door, and the other doors are there, and it was never like a changeable effect anymore. Now they did more recently last year during its refurbishment or the year before. They really brought back all of the projections. They added a new kind of ending sequence where the fog projection used to be, and it looks so much better. So hopefully, the rumors of this door refurbishment effect is working, so they can get that back up and running. Now that the attraction is, what did they say? It had just hit its 30-year anniversary.
30 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even remember the last time I saw like something else other than just like the Riches one.
It has been so long since those doors have worked, like
I
a
know.
very long time. And I'd be surprised if in a month they get them working because they haven't worked in so long. So I don't think
I
a
know. I
month long
know.
refurbishment is going to fix it.
What was the other thing that like we just the cannons on Rise of the Resistance? I'm like
Oh,
I
yeah,
was so happy that those got fixed, but then I was like, how long do they stay fixed before they break again?
exactly.
But that wraps up refurbishments for Disneyland. Over at California Adventure, there's not a lot actually. Grizzly River Run just reopened, and I wanted to talk about that too. They did a lot of refurbishment on the exterior of the attraction, did its annual refurb. There's still a lot of construction though going on over at DCA. They are also in the midst of beautifying their park, specifically Buena Vista Street, to get it looking nice because that'll be the focus of the 70th anniversary additions over at Disney California Adventure. So, Carthay Circle's covered in complete scaffolding, most of Buena Vista Street. Some of the buildings have already been exposed that have been closed. Saw them yesterday. They look amazing. It looks like brand new DCA again. It's crazy. So, I'm excited to see what that looks like, but the only thing that's closed in DCA right now is just Guardians of the Galaxy. They were down to, I think, just a one shaft operation, so hopefully after the refurbishment, they're going to be reopening on the 21st. Hopefully they'll be back to three shaft, or at least two anyway, to get the line moving at a better pace, because it was always like 90 to 120 minutes right away, because when you only got one elevator working, it's not the best.
Well, and with the refurbishment of Buena Vista Street, they haven't really done anything since they built Buena Vista Street. They haven't really touched up nothing. Like, and that's 13 years ago. So it's been much needed for them to do this.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And it's like, yeah, since 2012, it's just crazy. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's really the only closures as far as attractions and stuff in DCA. There is a pretty big closure for hotel guests if you're staying over at Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa. Your main entrance into the park over by Grizzly River Run is closed. They're currently really jackhammering the heck out of that thing over there, and they're putting in the brand new turnstiles that are, we're seeing in all the gates being put in over at the monorail, etc. So this is not a quick refurbishment. It's going to be closed until mid-May, so maybe even after the debut of the 70th anniversary. We just don't know. um, I saw it myself this weekend, and I saw it earlier last week too, and it's so loud. They're jackhammering a ton of stuff, and the crazy part is, Jared, these are like the most expensive rooms in the
I
hotel
know.
because they're the ones facing the theme park. So I was like, I really hope
So,
that the
you
rooms around it
spend
are like.
$800 a night on a hotel room and all you hear is jackhammering all day.
I know. I was like, I really hope the rooms around it are not like they're kind of like off the market. They're not being sold.
And then the last one to get redone of turnstiles will be the Pixar Pier entrance, correct?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because that was the next thing I was going to say is that
Hmm.
hotel entrance never even had turnstiles. Ever since it debuted, it's just been using this like rolly cart entrance,
Hmm.
where the cast members have like computers on like it's like a very similar setup to when you're ordering things from one of the food and wine festival booths, and they have that like little setup with like the cast members that are at a register kind of thing.
Okay.
It's like one of those, and
Kind of
then
like how they had that like rolling cart fast pass machine for a while.
yeah. So it's like one of those, and then there's like two stations at it, and they have like entrance cast members there, and usually like a security cast member there.
Okay.
They have a really great permanent like security setup there, but they don't have a turnstile. So yeah, to your point, I think what was probably happening was they were just waiting until this was inevitably coming because they knew it was
Yeah.
coming, in order to, because like why put regular turnstiles there if they knew this was coming? So my guess is they'll probably install these once it's ready because that's going to be like a permanent addition for those guests.
Yeah.
But right now, if you're staying at Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa, all guests are using that entrance right now. So whether it's the Pixar Place Hotel or the Disney's Grand Californian Hotel, you're using that entrance. If you're unfamiliar with where it's at, if you're over at the Grand Californian Hotel and you're headed out of the hotel towards the Disney Vacation Club area where all the villas are, the kind of the patio area of that where the barbecues are located is how you get out to that entrance. And then when you're coming back to the hotel, it's going to be located right next to Seaside Souvenirs, in between that and the Corn Dog Castle. You can just kind of sneak on through there. It's kind of hidden a little bit. It reminds me of the
Now,
old days when there used to be
now I
an
did see
entrance there.
on Twitter, are they also doing refurbishment to the outside of the Grand right now?
Yes, the Grand Californian is going under major refurbishment. So if you are
Mm-hmm.
staying there, in addition to the entrance, there's a lot of stuff. The hotel rooms are being renovated, section by section, and the exterior of the hotel is being renovated, and it definitely needed it. It hasn't been renovated since I think the addition was added to the hotel, at least on that side.
Yeah.
So a lot of the wood was faded, rotted, but I just saw a section of it that had been unveiled on the front drive, and it looks really, really good. This is a soft goods renovation for Disney's
Mm-hmm.
Grand California Hotel and Spa, so it's not receiving a brand new overall look. You're just going to see things like updated bedding, new carpeting, new wallpaper, new art choices in the room, new pillows, things like that. And they also might be like refurbishing the furniture in the room, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
being replaced. It's going to stay the same, but it has the updated look already, so they didn't really need anything major here. Um, but they are
And
in the
damn,
process of that.
it's been a while since they've done any of these major refurbishments to areas of California Adventure in my mind. Like it, especially the hotels. A lot of them haven't gotten a full exterior redo, nothing like that.
Yeah, no, it's been a while for all these parts, especially like this. I feel like this Grizzly Peak area,
Mm-hmm.
even like the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail, like nothing's really changed. I was thinking about that for a
Mm-hmm.
while too. And in addition to all the closures in the rooms, the Storytellers Cafe and the Napa Rose are going to be closing as well. And those, for the most part, have been, to Jared's point, untouched since the
Mm-hmm.
hotel opened in 2001. The Napa Rose specifically, that has a special place in my heart, the Napa Rose, just because it's so distinctly frozen in that time of Disney, and it's like an era that like we'll never get back to, but it's being renovated into a much more like masculine, darker feel than what it currently is. And the Storytellers Cafe is too. So right now, Napa Rose is not closed. However, Storytellers Cafe is closed, and parts of the pool is closed. So really, the Grand Californian is like construction zone. So if you are looking to book a hotel right now, I would say I would not book Grand Californian if you aren't a person that likes to be around construction, until probably June, and
Yeah.
then you'd be safe to go in June. But right now, yeah, the Napa Rose restaurant is going to be closing sometime in April. I think the Casaber said. And then the Storytellers Cafe is currently closed right now. Napa Rose and Storytellers Cafe share a kitchen, at least the main kitchen anyway. There's the on-site kitchen when you're at Napa Rose that the chefs are cooking in front of you, but then there's like a shared kitchen in the back that the Storytellers Cafe and Napa Rose share. So that is why they're kind of closing around the same time because they're going to be doing some stuff there. But right now, it's kind of funny. They have the princess, or not the princess, they have the storyteller setup in the Trillium Ballroom, which, for those that don't know, is those little ballrooms that you see on the right hand side
Mm-hmm.
when you're walking in and out of the Grand Californian Hotel from downtown Disney. So sometimes when you're coming in and out of the hotel, if you go that route, you'll see like private parties there. But right now they have um, Storytellers Cafe set up there, and I think they even have the Princess Breakfast set up there, or
They don't
it's
want to lose out
planned
on
to
that
be
revenue,
there.
Dammy.
I know. It's just a weird, like, I don't know. It's just I don't. That's a weird place for me. I wouldn't want to do the Princess Breakfast there. You know what I mean? So
I gotta get a reservation in Napa Rose. I've never eaten at Napa Rose in the
Yeah,
entire
you've
time
got
I've
to
been
do
coming.
it before it closes. And the nice part about
Mm-hmm.
Napa Rose is if you can't get a reservation, you can get in line. Napa Rose opens up at 5:30 each day.
Mm-hmm.
You can join the queue. There's usually only like 5 or 6 people that know that are there like all the time. But you can join the queue for the bar, which is truly any of the space that you see physically when you're walking by Napa Rose, the tables that are all around the fireplace right there,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bar. All of those tables aren't part of the restaurant, they're actually the bar.
Oh,
So you can sit at those tables and order the full bar or the full menu, and you don't have to be dining in the restaurant. The restaurant's in the back half. So if you can't get a reservation between now and when it closes, you can always go into the bar and still have a pretty Napa Rose experience.
it's so sad. I've been going to California Adventures since the day it opened, and I've yet to eat there.
Man, but yeah, that's crazy how much construction is going on. So Disneyland Resort
Mm-hmm.
overall, just to kind of wrap up this segment, is a place of construction right now when it comes to preparation for the 70th anniversary. But we're happy to see it. We're happy to see them do all that and get everything ready. But the next thing I was going to talk about was the South by Southwest
Mm-hmm.
presentation that Josh Diamaro and some other members of Walt Disney Imagineering had presented, including sharing a bunch of new details on things that we saw announced at D23, but maybe a little bit more details than we had been originally given. And one of those details was more kind of like a closer look at what we're expecting for Avengers Infinity Defense. And what I can't tell, Jared, and I was going to kind of ask your opinion since you're a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more knowledgeable on this. To me, it looks literally exactly the same as Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure, just maybe with um, like projection mapping that they don't use in their version of it.
Yeah, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here because when they first announced Infinity Defense, I remember Walt Disney Imagineering put up an Instagram post saying that they will have large scale physical sets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm holding them to that. But because what I'm thinking is how they're developing in the video that they showed, how they're developing Infinity Defense, they can't build massive physical sets in their R&D department. So I'm hoping all the projection and the projection mapping is just to give them a sense of what they're going to build. Um, that being said, if not, it does look like Peter Pan from Fantasy Springs.
Yeah, it does. The thing that kind of disappointed me the most with it, because Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure looks amazing, and
Mm-hmm.
from what I've heard, there's a couple things just as a person myself who's prone to sickness. I hate 3D attractions. I wish they would be done with. I feel like Universal's going the right route with this.
Yeah.
They are getting rid of the 3D on all
Yeah.
their attractions, and Disney seems to be adding it to all of their
Yeah. In an
attractions.
era where all these places are getting rid of them, why develop a massive new e-ticket that's 3D based?
Yeah, I really wish they would just shut it off on this one, and
Mm-hmm.
more importantly, I wish they would shut it off on Flight of Passage because I feel like it would eliminate all of the motion sickness. Because half the time on Flight of Passage, I've only ridden Flight of Passage when it was brand new, where the
Mm-hmm.
3D was clear.
Mm-hmm.
Now every time I ride it, it's blurry and it like
Yep.
takes you out of the ride because it's
It's because they
blurry.
haven't refurbished that attraction since it opened, and they need to.
I know they're just like so afraid to because it's like draw a
Well,
huge
yeah, it's
draw.
the most popular attraction in the park, so I get it. But the last time I went on it, it was almost unwatchable.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that there's still time for them to be
Hmm.
like, hey, maybe we don't need 3D. And it's not like they can't change their mind, right? We talked about this on the show with Mondo. You know, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey over here in Hollywood and also in Japan debuted with 3D on their version of the attraction,
Hmm.
whereas the one in Orlando did not. And it was not received well. And
No.
they took the 3D away, and it made it way better. Let me tell you. Not to
I
mention the
only
3D
rode
glasses
it
fall
one
off.
time in Hollywood when it had the 3D on it, and I was like, that's never happening again. So I'm glad they decided not to have that anymore because I know even Orlando tested it for a couple weeks, and they're like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
No, yeah. So I know the cast members don't want to clean them.
Mm-mm.
Guests steal them,
Yeah.
and they drop them in the attraction, which can shut the ride down because they have like
Well,
pressure sensors and.
and it is an endeavor to, like you said, like to clean the glasses. Like I know way back in the day when I worked at Disneyland, I worked in Tomorrowland, so we had Honey I Shrunk the Audience at the time, and It's Tough to Be a Bug was going on still, and they only had one cleaning facility for both of those attractions, and like 4 cast members, that was their entire shift all day was cleaning 3D glasses.
And they were over there underneath Space Mountain.
Yep.
Because I remember because way back in the day when you worked there, I worked at It's Tough to Be a Bug. So
Okay.
and we would get all the glasses on like a baker's rack,
Uh-huh.
which like like you see the rolling bread around on, but they were just racks of glasses, and then we'd like
Yeah, and they would
unzip
go through
them.
those. They would go through those big machines of sanitizing them over and over because we had Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, Muppet Vision, and It's Tough to Be a Bug, and all 3 of them had different colored 3D glasses.
Yeah, and then the Bug's Life one had bug glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, this is just, and then now they've got Star Tours that has the special glasses, and these look like the Star Tours / Flight of Passage glasses.
Yeah, they do.
Which
they kind of look like the Spider-Man ones too.
Oh, Spider-Man, yeah, the Spider-Man ones. Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm hoping that's one that doesn't need 3D either.
Yeah, Spider-Man doesn't need 3D either.
No.
Yeah, so let's take it away, please. Please take it away. Maybe I'll be less sick on it. It makes me worried because Peter and Kitra went on this, and Kitra at Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure, and she got nauseous like the rest of the day after riding it. And Attraction 360 said the same thing.
Well,
so
it looks like something that would give even someone who has mild motion sickness like the worst day possible.
Yeah.
Like you could watch that video and you can see when you're flying around Neverland and your vehicle's moving at the same time, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not writing it off completely, but I will hold out hope that 3D can be removed. We'll see. But also at South by Southwest, they also shared in regards to Avengers Campus the other new attraction that we're getting, which is the Stark Flight Lab. And they showed us a closer look at what these gyro kinetic pods are going to be. So it's essentially like a Kuko robotic arm. So if you've ever been on Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, it's the robotic arm that you're riding on. A very similar situation, but the arm itself isn't moving; it's stationary. Your pods are moving from one arm to the other to essentially complete like a flight simulation, and then they're being put back. So I think the big element here they were sharing at South by Southwest is typically Disney would try to hide this, aka like Universal does, right? You are supposed to be on sitting in like a bench in the room of requirement, and Hermione's enchanted you and you start to fly, and they're doing their best to hide the robotic arm that's like holding you like 20 feet off the ground, but if you look down you can kind of tell and see it. But on this one they like made it a point to say, we're not trying to hide anything, we want to showcase it, we want to we're trying to make the movements of these arms really fluid, really beautiful and synchronized. So they were showing like this team of people that were like had these like fake arms that were like doing a synchronized dance with the arms. I originally thought this would be like a vomit rocket where like it just spins like all over the place and it would be bad, but when they showed the motion with like the fluid movements and like the slower kind of situation, even like the little like test ones they had going on over at Imagineering, it didn't look as intense. It seemed like maybe more family oriented where anyone could maybe ride it.
Yeah.
So
I'm for this idea for the attraction coming because they do need more in that land for sure. And I like the idea of an attraction that has a ton of kinetics that is just moving all the time, just to get some motion in that that land.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still cautious about it being a little too much for me.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. Um, there. So you're basically kind of like moving on a conveyor belt, like
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion, and then the robotic arm would come in and like lock into the back of it, and then pick up the ride vehicle off the track, and then like spin it around in the air. My only thought is like I could see like either the robotic arm not connecting all the way, or when it's putting it back down, it doesn't like lock into place, and then the ride like auto
Yeah.
stops. And I feel like that
And
would
that's
happen.
that's what I'm thinking. Like, how often is this thing gonna go down in its first like year?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it's similar. I know it's a different type of things. It's a ride vehicle, and one's an animatronic. But look how often the Mr. Potato Head would drop his ear when they
Oh,
would
yeah.
detach and come back. That's what I fear.
Yeah. So I agree. Yeah, it looks interesting. I like the
Yeah.
idea of the kinetic. Like you said, the kinetic motion. It's very much giving the vibe that you're in an Avengers campus and there's training going on and stuff,
Mhm.
like, which is the whole theme of it all. So, um, it's a very on theme attraction. So I like that for it.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see this one in like kind of going Stark Flight Lab, and then the Avengers Infinity Defense will kind of hold out on and see. But it sounds like on the first day of the South by Southwest presentation, Diamaro, he hinted or stated that they had broke ground like that day. So we
Mhm.
know now construction has officially begun for these locations and new attractions.
Yeah, and we still don't know though exactly when these are gonna open.
Yeah, yeah, we don't know. We don't know when they're going to open. People have like some ideas, like maybe next year, or maybe
Mhm.
2027, like, or maybe like one of them next year, and then the other one 2027.
Because I will
Disney.
say, Stark Flight Lab, it looks like the easier build.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just need to get the show building for Infinity Defense done because it looks like they share a show building in queue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't think it's going to take as long to build Flight Lab as it will Infinity Defense. So I can see that one opening earlier.
Yeah.
And it would be much needed to have something new, like not both at the same time. They can have one year, one the next year.
100%, yeah. And they've been doing. I was just gonna say they've been doing that. They've been
Mm-hmm.
doing the like split openings, so they have little things to kind of like talk about. Um, they always love lumping things together, so it doesn't have to necessarily be like. I think gone are the days where we had, you know, something as major as the refurbishment of Disney California Adventure when it reopened in
Mm-hmm.
2012, and we had the things we had like a brand new Paradise Pier, a brand new Cars
Yep.
Land, a brand new Buena Vista Street, and it was like all able to debut at the same time, kind of thing. And like Disney just doesn't. They kind of want something special every single year to kind of highlight and debut and lump in with like existing festivals or
Mm-hmm.
seasonal events. So I think the more split opening of different things is probably like what we're going to see moving forward.
Even with their new lands, when they build new lands, they don't necessarily like to open all the attractions at one time.
Mm-hmm. I think the
So
exception to the rule on this one will be
Mhm.
whenever Avatar opens. I
Yeah,
think
for
that'll
sure.
open as a
But
whole.
I think like in the days of like when like Cars Land opened with 3 attractions,
Mm-hmm.
they don't do that anymore.
Mm-mm.
They do like a Galaxy's Edge. They're gonna open up the land, they'll have an attraction open, and then later their bigger attraction.
Right. Correct. So yeah, we're excited just to see it either way. A lot of stuff coming to Disneyland, a lot of refurbishments. I think the next big thing, obviously, we're just about a couple months away from May 16th debuting the
Mm-hmm.
70th anniversary. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. And that leads me to my next topic, which we hadn't talked about, which was Disney shared a guide to the 70th anniversary, which gave us a few more details that we didn't
Mm-hmm.
know for sure. There were a lot of rumors online that we would get the Frozen float back in Paint the Night. Because we had it at Disneyland, but then when they moved it to Disney California Adventure Park, the float was too tall, couldn't fit under all the wiring and cabling they have on Buena Vista Street for the trolley. And so the Frozen float was scrapped when it came to DCA. But in addition to that, they had to heavily modify the Little Mermaid float and a few of the other floats to fit underneath that cabling. The Mermaid float lost its big wave that it had over at Disneyland. So there were rumors that, hey, it's coming back to Disneyland, doesn't have those height restrictions anymore. Let's bring back the Frozen float. And then there were also rumors saying that the Frozen float was fully demolished when they made the Incredibles float and it no longer existed at Disneyland. But Paint the Night Parade was not the only parade that's ever existed of this version, right? We were the second parade because Hong Kong had created this parade first in their entertainment department, and then we borrowed it and made our own version for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland. So the rumors are, Jared, is that we took the Hong Kong float and brought it here for Frozen to return. Is that?
Well, I mean, that would make sense because they haven't ran their Paint the Night in quite a few years. So
right.
if they just have the Frozen float sitting there, why not use it?
Exactly. So that's
I would say, why don't we also take the original floats so we don't have the modified ones here for what ours used to look like?
Right? Yeah, no, exactly. Like the big wave of the Little Mermaid. That
the Slinky Dog that was longer, all of that.
So, but yes, we are getting the Frozen float back. Whether or not that also means that we're getting the Incredibles float too, or if they're just going to take that one off and that's like a DCA exclusive and we just get Frozen back, because it still kept the same length of the parade, but we don't really know. So we'll kind of have to wait and see on that one. They did confirm, of course, some of the stuff we already knew, just with some more details. Wondrous Journeys is coming back to the park, along with a Better Together parade over at Disney California Adventure Park. Nothing super new here. Basically just the same stuff coming back. Wondrous Journeys is great because it's one of those shows like Mickey's Mixed Magic where it has really awesome versions if there's fireworks or not. And there's not always going to be fireworks on some nights. So Wondrous Journeys projection show is still pretty cool, especially with like the Baymax flying and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a big hit with guests and something that they'll enjoy. And then in addition to that, we're going to have a brand new projection show on It's a Small World called The Tapestry of Happiness. And this is, going to be using a new song that they've created originally for the 70th called Celebrate Happy. I'm expecting Tokyo Disney vibes with this because all of the character costumes look like Tokyo Disney.
Well, and have you noticed, like in all the promos that they've put out for the 70th, it's all Tokyo Disneyland music?
Oh, I did not know
they've been using themes from Tokyo Disneyland from some of their celebrations in the ads that they've been using.
Makes sense. Especially with like the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade, which in and of itself looks very Tokyo-esque, right? Yep. And on top of that, the cavalcade itself is being led by Duffy and Shelley May from Tokyo Disney. So they're making their return back to Disneyland for the 70th anniversary. I don't think we've ever seen Shelley May here outside of special events. And Duffy was a character meet and greet at Disney California Adventure a long time ago. But the cavalcade is very bright, it's very colorful, very Tokyo-esque as far as some of their celebrations. And then they also gave us a look at all the anniversary decorations coming, also very colorful, very bright pinks and blues. There's going to be a new one in downtown Disney right next to the flower fountain. Of course, a brand new massive one right by the floral as you walk into Disneyland. In the Esplanade where they used to have one for Pixar Pier or Pixar Fest, that one's going to be there as well. And then, of course, on Main Street right before you're going down. So there's a bunch of different photo opportunities, and it's giving the Tokyo Disney vibes for sure.
Oh, absolutely. This is even, like you said, in the coloring and the different, how they're presenting the logo and everything is very Tokyo Disneyland.
Yes. And the last thing they shared about this was some other attractions are going to be celebrating 70th. This kind of akins back a little bit to the 60th and the 50th, where they kind of threw those logos on other attractions, especially more so during the 50th. But they just showed us that Toy Story Mania would be celebrating the 70th anniversary with the 70th logo kind of placed all throughout. They have like a big giant sticker set in the background because you're the size of a toy when you're on the ride, and it looks like those hollow 70th stickers were picked off by Andy or whoever, and then was placed on different toys and things throughout the ride. So you're kind of seeing that look. I just wish they would do this on a lot more of the rides instead of
I'm
they only shared
so
one.
happy they're doing something to Toy Story Midway Mania because they promised us when they first built that attraction that it was going to continuously update to new like games. They did it one time and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is I really am excited about this one actually.
I agree. I agree. It's going to be awesome. It's just a really fun celebration overall.
Yeah.
The only thing that we've talked about before, and we've shared it as well, the Walt Disney animatronic and show unfortunately won't be debuting with the 50th or the 70th kickoff anymore. It's going to be pushed back to the actual birthday. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer to see that, but there's still going to be plenty to see and do. And in addition to that, we didn't even talk about the fact that Disney California Adventure Park is getting a new show, a brand new World of Color. And that one is going to be called World of Color Happiness. And it's going to be a ton of new movies and shows that we haven't seen in World of Color. And I think this one is very Pixar focused. So maybe almost like it should have debuted last year for Pixar.
I will say some of the stuff that they also announced about it is I think this is where they're gonna put a lot of the characters like popular IP that's happened recently because well especially with like our generation of people like Goofy movie is going to be in this new World of Color. The pre-show is going to feature the Muppets. So like there's a lot going into this show that I think is going to make a lot of people who grew up in the 90s very happy.
Yeah, I agree. And then also too, on top of that, this show's also featuring things like Turning Red, and that movie specifically also caters a lot to kids that grew up in the 90s as well. So it looks like we're also seeing Lion King and Little Mermaid, and those are very like 90s focused movies too. So it's going to be an interesting show. They mentioned that it's going to have our iconic songs from the movies and stuff, but they also mentioned that Boys to Men, which would be voicing some of the music from this show, which is also very 90s coded.
Yeah, they're doing a rendition of Rainbow Connection, I think it is. And then there's something else where there's a original song just for this show, correct?
Yeah, Fits and Tantrums will debut a new original song for World of Color titled "Makes Me Wanna Move." So I don't know. I'm a World of Color 1 fan. I think I was the only one that liked it.
Me too. No, I like that show.
And so I liked the song, and I like Lauren Allred. She sings the music from that with I forgot the gentleman that sings it with her. And so that was a great song, and I thought it was an awesome show. Maybe just had slow moments that like people didn't really connect with, but like I felt like the song was so powerful, and it was like as good as like the World of Color song originally. So I'm hoping that it comes back eventually, but we'll see.
They haven't really done good with Disneyland anniversary World of Color shows. So
yeah,
I'm cautiously optimistic about this because do you remember World of Color Celebrate from the 60th?
Yeah, that one was terribly received.
Yeah, it was not great.
It was kind of funny because World of Color Celebrate featured all the Disneyland attractions, and then Wondrous Journeys like had just animation.
Yeah, like that's right, because Disneyland, it was called Disneyland Forever for the 60th, but did nothing for Disneyland in the show. But World of Color did all the attractions. It was like they should have been swapped.
Yeah, it was like they should have been swapped, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll be cautiously optimistic for this one.
Yep.
But and the last thing I wanted to talk about from that like kind of drop that happened with South by Southwest and everything was we finally got details shared about the new mission coming to Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. So we had a little teaser image that was shared with us at D23 last year that said that the Star Wars Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run attraction would be updated to include a mission with Mando and Grogu. And we didn't know anything else other than that, and we got like a little sneak image of like the cockpit, and then like Mando and Grogu like flying above. And so now we got some additional details. They essentially said that we would be visiting planets like Bespin, the Cloud City, Tatooine, and the kind of like chunk remnants of the blown up Death Star. And those are all iconic original movie locations, which I think is going to be a big focus on Star Wars movies.
It's almost like what people have been asking for.
Yeah. So we don't. Do we have a? Oh, we do. They will debut on literally a month or like in May, but 2026.
Yeah, and it's the same day as the movie premiere. So the movie comes out May 22nd, and so does the attraction.
Yeah. So it's going to be exciting for fans that like kind of OG Star Wars stuff. It'll be nice to have a new mission on this because, again, just like Jared was mentioning about Toy Story Mania changing, they also told us that Star Wars Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run would change regularly because it's like a video game platform based around the Unreal Engine.
Because some of the concept art we got for it initially had all sorts of different missions that they wanted to do for this attraction.
Now, what do you think? Mondo is saying he didn't understand like how Hondo Onotka plays into all this.
So I was wondering the same thing. So I don't know if this is just going to be an addition to the mission, like you might get the Mando one, or it's always going to be the Mandalorian Grogu. But I would prefer is if they just led with the Mandalorian Grogu, and even if the pre-show changed where it's not Hondo anymore and it's the Mandalorian giving you your pre-show for the attraction, I'd be into that.
Yeah, that could be cool. That could be
because I think going into that room and having a Mandalorian like animatronic with a Grogu down where the droid is right now, people would love that.
Yeah, and they could even have him literally do the same movements.
Yeah,
just a different costume on it.
They can just reskin that same animatronic.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't even matter to people. So that would be cool. I think it would really like connect with a lot. There's so much, the story of Hondo and Notco and like even by Marathi are really great stories, but like most people don't know them.
Well, yeah, because Hondo came from the animated shows, and not a lot of, I mean, they're very popular, don't get me wrong, but the main focus of Star Wars fans coming to Galaxy's Edge, it's your basic Star Wars fans that know Luke, Leia, they know Mandalorian from Disney Plus, so that's what they're looking forward to. So that's where they should focus.
Yep, I agree, and I'm excited for this.
Me too.
So I will be doing this for sure multiple times.
And I hope the mission itself, where they're giving you these like different locations in the Star Wars galaxy, that they're individual missions, and it's not just one where you go to all these different places. That it makes you come back on the attraction and, oh, look, I got to go to the Cloud City this time instead of the Death Star,
And the coolest part about this attraction? It's not 3D.
Exactly.
And it's still convincing without the 3D.
And, talking about this attraction, when they drop their YouTube video, we call it Imagineering, about the ride vehicles, that is probably one of the most interesting pieces of tech that they have built in the last little bit. Like that carousel on how they have the motion simulator in the carousel that goes around is so cool.
It is. And it's so cool how efficient it is.
Yeah. Well, because how they were saying they can have one go down or two go down, but it does not affect the rest of the attraction. So their efficiency still stays up. That's why that attraction hardly ever goes down. It's very efficient.
Yeah, I love it. It's every time I go on it, it's fun. The only time it can be not fun is if you've got someone who's just constantly crashing in the pilot seat. But
yeah, it is. And I hate being an engineer. I hate just pushing buttons all the time. Like at least the gunner, you're pushing the same button and like firing some stuff. The engineer, you're just like flipping switches and it's okay.
Yeah. But that wraps up the Disneyland segment mostly. We've talked about a ton of news in that. But to wrap up the show, I wanted to talk a few things outside Disneyland. We do venture outside Disneyland a little bit. The first one was pretty major, and it came to us from Universal Studios, more specifically Universal Studios Hollywood. They had the final day of Fast and the Furious Supercharged, which is the finale on the world famous studio tour. I went on this attraction during annual pass holder previews, so
Me too, actually.
Yeah, I got the little email when I was an annual pass holder
Uh-huh.
to like come try it out, and I thought it was fun. It wasn't like the coolest thing I'd
Yeah.
ever done, but
It was a nice addition to the studio tour. It was I don't like how they marketed it back in the day. New ride and
Mhm.
like no, it's just a finale to the studio tour.
Yeah, it's just a finale. Yeah, it's something that you
Yeah.
pull into. It's basically like the exact same thing as Kong 3D. It's just different projections. It's
Yeah.
like they built two of
And
them.
see, the thing is, like, I'm okay with Supercharge how it was on the studio tour, like, but I've never been on the one in Orlando because it's what we have at the end of the studio tour, but as a full blown attraction, I think that's a little much.
Yeah. But so yeah, the attraction closed. Universal Studios said that it would pave the way for a all new studio tour attraction to be announced
Hmm.
very soon. We're also seeing things too, like the Nope studio tour set, which was added a couple years ago, also closing. And we're hearing rumors too of the Universal Studios world famous studio tour um, changing its location for where you enter
Hmm.
and exit the tram to back to the lower lot.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of change happening at Universal Studios. Obviously, they're building the brand new Fast and the Furious supercharged or Fast and the Furious Drift Hollywood Drift
Hollywood Drift.
attraction roller coaster. So that's kind of changing the landscape a lot at Universal, and they're planning to do a lot more expansion. Some of the executives have talked about adding Wicked attractions. A lot of people are saying it'd be really easy to just switch the lights on and change some stuff on Supercharged to make it a Wicked finale for the trolley.
I
But
could see that.
yeah, where you're kind of
Um,
like pulling into the defying gravity moment where she's jumping out and you're flying alongside of her
I
in the
would be
tram.
okay if they brought that in like temporarily, like to maybe promote the one in December, the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
But that land, how big it takes up of the studio tour, I think eventually it needs to go to have something more permanent there that actually connects to the theme park.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And we talked about this too on Speculation Sunday, and how the proximity of the current tram loading zone
Yeah.
and the Fast and the Furious Supercharged building, how they perfectly wrap around Harry Potter.
Yep.
So in addition to it potentially being a Harry Potter expansion, maybe it's something like monsters related, like we're seeing at Dark Universe over at Epic Universe and Universal Studios. We'll have to see, but
And if you really look at it, how you talked about maybe the studio tour going back to the lower lot because that's where it used to be.
mm-hmm.
The thing is, if you really look at where the studio tour loading is now, it doesn't make a lot of sense because when you first take off in the studio tour, you do that whole hill all the way down to the lower lot without really anything of significance for the tour itself.
Exactly.
So there's no reason for them to take up all that space right next to Harry Potter, which is one of their most successful IPs in the park, to just have a unload loading area for the studio tour. When you can have it back on the lower lot, it gets to the action quicker, and they can expand over there.
Not to mention that, but to your point, the steep hills that the tram has to do,
Yeah.
A, makes it less efficient.
Yep.
B, is why the electric trams really never fully took over, because it's like really powerful right there for like the drain on the
Yeah.
trams. But the unfortunate incident that the world's famous studio tour had was kind of a direct cause of like a steep hill like transit like thing that it had to make. So I think the less steep hills it has to do, they could definitely maybe make the trams more efficient so they can be all electric and don't have to be loud trams that disturb filming, so they have to like
Mm-hmm.
avoid certain areas when they're filming because they're loud massive engines that have to pull these things. And they don't have to make such dangerous maneuvers going up like steep hills with like thousands
Yeah.
of people on it.
And it also makes sense why they would get rid of the studio tour going down that hill to the lower lot because Hollywood Drift literally is above that road and are right alongside the road that they go down. And I don't think they're going to want to have that attraction running with the studio tour running right by it.
Right. I agree. So, but a lot of changes
Yeah.
coming to Universal Studios Hollywood, more than we had originally thought, actually.
Yeah, and I don't think they're done either. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot more coming that they're holding back right now.
Yeah, so they've got a few years to prepare for the Olympics coming to Los
Yep.
Angeles, and I think they want a lot of this stuff ramped up and ready to go.
Yeah,
So
and they've already said that the backlot there is going to be the broadcast hub for the Olympics when they come there. So they want to make sure that place is looking great when all eyes of the world are on Universal.
yep, yep. And I was actually it's funny. I was watching a special on how they're going to do the Olympics in
Hmm
2028 and like where everything's going to be. It was a
hmm
really cool breakdown video. I'll have to send it to you, but they
Didn't they say they're
mentioned.
trying to have it like a no car Olympics or something like that? Like no one can drive to the venues?
Well, when it comes to, well, you kind of, but like what they're doing is, so what the one fact that they shared, which I thought was interesting, was the
Hmm
only profitable Olympics ever to exist was the LA Olympics in
Yep.
1985, and they're planning to recreate that moment again where we
Okay.
have a profitable Olympics, because every Olympics is usually like economically devastating to the city that
Yeah.
goes there, but LA's wasn't back in the day. And the nice part is that we've just built two amazing new venues with the SoFi Stadium and the Intuit
hmm
Dome, and those are like, I think the SoFi Stadium is going to be like the swimming, and
Yeah, and I
then
think they're doing opening and closing Olympic ceremonies there too,
yep,
right?
and then
Yeah.
they're also doing the gymnastics in the Intuit Dome.
Okay.
So those are like the two main ones, and then the LA Coliseum will come back. It will be the running, like the track running situation, and then they've got the Kia Forum right next to the SoFi
hmm
Stadium, which can be some of the smaller events. So there's a bunch of like already existing, and they're all within each other. They're all right there,
Yeah.
so you don't have to drive anywhere there. They're gonna have um, a dedicated, they, to your point with the whole no transportation thing, they're gonna have like
hmm
dedicated bus lanes where like no
Yeah.
one can drive in them except for a bus.
And I think that's why they're updating a lot of their public transit, like with the metro and things like that. They're really updating some of those to where they are ready to go in 28. Um, I do know some of the, and they're smart for it. I know there were some complaints about it before, but instead of trying to shove some of the events that they can't hold in certain areas, they're just having them in different locations. Because I know even in Northern California, they're using a stadium up there for
Mm-hmm.
the Olympics, and for baseball, they're using a stadium in Kansas City of all places. But instead of trying to just shoehorn something in and make it worse, you find what works.
Yeah, and I know in 1985 they used Orange County for all of
Hmm
the distance sports, so like the longer bike races and the longer running races. Those were held in like Orange County, like Mission Viejo, Lake Forest area. And I don't know if they plan on doing that again, but it would make sense, right? Because those places all
Yeah.
still exist there and have all the like the running tracks and stuff.
I
So.
am super excited to see what LA is going to be like in 2028 because it's a kind of a trifecta when it comes to LA because next year they hold the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the next year they hold the World Cup, and then the next year is the Olympics.
Yep. So they're
So
doing a
it's
lot.
gonna be a busy few years in LA.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So the Universal Studios Hollywood, all that's to say, they've got a lot to do to
Yeah.
prepare for that, including maybe new hotels to fit all the maybe influx of guests that would be coming, especially considering, to Jared's point, Universal Studios being the hub
hmm
of all of the broadcasting, because of course NBC Universal is the
Yeah.
main Olympic sponsor. So
And you know they're going to want to show off all their new fancy attractions.
exactly, and hotels if they have them.
Yeah, they're going to want to show that off.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to talk about, the last thing to close out the show, is the Knott's Boysenberry Festival. I love Knott's Berry Farm. I love the Boysenberry Festival at Knott's Berry Farm. This year, it kicks off the same weekend as Star Wars Season of the Force. So we will be there that weekend. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do Star Wars Season of the Force on Friday, and then we'll do Knott's Berry Farm Boysenberry Festival on Saturday. But I had a chance to go with Mondo to the Boysenberry Festival preview. And let me tell you, the foods this year that they're offering are really, really good. And
They're pretty spectacular this
yeah,
year.
one more specifically, the hit of the night was, not a surprise from like what we see over at Disneyland, but they had a quesadilla um, slider
Hmm.
that you would dip in the consomme, and the blueberry aspect to it was the consomme. So the consomme was blueberry flavored, and then you dipped that. It's like kind of, it looked like a sloppy Joe, but it was the beauty of meat. And then you dip it into the consomme. It was really, really good, and
It's
everyone loved it.
really good.
Mondo had like 3 of them.
Yeah,
So good.
they're. It sounds on like when they explained it, when they explain it to you, you're like, that's interesting. Why would you put like a boysenberry into the consomme? But
Yeah.
man, does it work!
Yeah, I explained it to one of my friends, and he was like, "That sounds disgusting," but then it was
It's
so
not.
good. I don't know. The other thing they had, I don't know what it is about Knott's like mashed potatoes, but I love their mashed
Hmm.
potatoes. So whenever they have like a mashed potato dish, I'm like, yes, I need that. So they have their famous boysenberry barbecue sauce, which I love. Typically, it
Hmm.
accompanies the meatballs. This time around, they're doing boysenberry barbecue beef tips. So like the beef tips, like the churned or charred ends of the beef,
Hmm.
they're getting tossed in the boysenberry barbecue sauce and then basically slopped on top of a bed of mashed potatoes. This one was pretty good. I
That
like
sounds
that one as
amazing.
well. And then the other highlight for me was the what was the one that he showcased? Oh, it was this 2 foot long hot dog. But so they've done this before. They had a boysenberry hot dog that was 2 foot
Hmm.
long. This time around, it's a boysenberry sausage. So it's like a
Oh,
like a smoked sausage that has a boysenberry flavor. The bun is purple and it's 2 feet long, and that's going to be over, I think, at Wilderness Broiler.
they always have to have something during their festivals that is
That's
like
super
the
big.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like their like Instagrammable food that
Mm-hmm.
is just so wild. Like when they have like the massive burger with a burger on top of it and things like that.
Yep.
They always do something for these festivals.
Yep. The big dessert hits for me was the rhubarb like bar. Like, so imagine like a lemon bar, but it was like rhubarb. And I don't
Hmm.
really like, I've never tasted rhubarb or had rhubarb pie. I know rhubarb is an option when you're getting the chicken dinner meal at Knott's Chicken Dinner
Yep.
Restaurant. So that's a big part of there. But the big hit for all of us when we were there was they have a boysenberry pie cookie. So it's like a cookie that's also boysenberry pie. I don't know how to describe how the execution was. There was like boysenberry jam in it, like kind of oozing. It was really, really, really good. And I don't necessarily know that it tasted like pie, but it definitely tasted like boysenberry.
Uh-huh.
And it was almost like those Knott's cookies with like the jam in the middle, but like specifically like more fresh. I guess I don't know how
Yeah.
to say that, but that one's gonna be at the Ghost Town Bakery. But so many great food options. Again, Knott's Berry Farm. Their portion sizes are huge,
Hmm.
and their tasting card is a little expensive, but because the portion sizes are huge, this is definitely a multiple visit
Yes.
tasting card that you can share.
Yes.
So,
And they
and
intend on you sharing it because of the portions are so big.
yes, so just keep that in mind. If you're like in a group, maybe only get one tasting card,
Yeah.
and keep in mind too, you can use your tasting card at Knott's Berry Farm Boysenberry Festival for alcohol. And
Hmm.
so the alcoholic drinks, they're like $18 to $22
Yeah.
depending on. And so if you can use your tasting card on one of the alcoholic drinks, that's a steal. So
Yeah.
some people like to do all like taste all the different alcoholic drinks, and then they just want to buy food. So
Hmm.
that's, I mean, they find more value in that. So something to
And
keep in mind.
Boysenberry Festival is probably my favorite festival of the year when it comes to knots because they put a lot of their creativity and their food into this particular festival. I
Mm-hmm.
believe like it's like because Knott's is known for like boysenberry itself, they throw everything at this festival when it comes to their
Yes.
food.
Yes. And fun fact for this festival, which I did not know until I went to the media preview.
Hmm.
This is the 10th anniversary of the Boysenberry Festival, and I would have assumed it's like the 30th or something.
Yeah, they did not start this that long ago because Knott's didn't get into the festival swing until later in the game when other parks had already been doing it. But other parks may be doing it, but I think Knott's is doing it better.
Yeah, yeah. So 10th anniversary this year. They have
Hmm.
some amazing merchandise. We saw all the merch. The artist that they had do the 10th anniversary logo. It's really beautiful. It's like a stained glass
Hmm.
logo, and they actually gave us this here. Let me pull it up. This is one of the pins that they're gonna have, and it says like 10 years on the bottom. And it has the dates on it, but it's got the stained glass look that a lot of their merch has. So they're gonna be doing stained glass merchandise, and they've got a really cool lounge fly. Their shirts look good. Their spirit jersey looks good. So I feel like it's gonna do really well for them,
I
honestly.
love that. And it only lasts until like mid-April, correct?
Yeah, the Boysenberry Festival starts March 28th and goes to April 27th, actually.
Okay.
But towards the end of the Boysenberry Festival, it typically goes to like weekends only. So you kind of have
Yeah.
to like check. So just make sure you're checking the Knott's Berry Farm app to make sure that Boysenberry Festival is happening on the day that you're going if you're wanting to go. Because Knott's does that sometimes where like the festival's only on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday sometimes. It's not like every day of the week like the Disney ones usually are, so just keep that in mind. Um, but we're excited to try this one out. Can't wait to do it. But yeah, that wraps up this week's episode of the 5571 podcast. Thank you guys all for watching or listening, however you're doing this. And thank you, Jared, for joining and being a part of the conversation. Love
Of
having
course,
you on.
anytime, Danny.
And we're excited, I know, for the 70th, for Boysenberry Festival, for all this stuff. So we'll probably have you back on here maybe to talk about some of these things as we get closer to them.
Absolutely.
But if you guys haven't already, you can follow the podcast on whatever audio platform you're listening on. Just click like subscribe or follow. It's kind of different on all the different ones. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can just subscribe to the YouTube channel, not only get my videos but the podcast all in one place. And if you want to follow me on social, I'm most active on Threads and also on Instagram. A little bit on X, but it seems like more people are on Threads these days, so that's kind of where we're posting most of the stuff. And then, Jared, where can people follow you if they want to follow you on stuff?
They can follow me at Discover the Magic on Instagram. Or mainly on there, or on. I also have my personals at JB Soucie.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put links to those in the description
Yes.
or the show notes, whatever you're listening on, so you guys can click those as well too. But thanks again for listening, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.